Welcome to the 1000 Nights and 1 Night. Now, when it was the 346th night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that the Wali cried out to his treasurer, saying, Bring hither a certain purse containing 1,000 dinars, and gave it to the highwayman, who took it, and thanking him went his way under cover of night. Now when it was morrow, the emir sent for the chief of the goldsmiths, and showed him the chest and what was therein. But the goldsmith found it nothing but tin and brass, and the jewels were bezel stones and pearls all of glass. Whereat the Wali was sore chagrined, and sent in quest of the highwayman, but none could come at him. And men also tell the tale of Ibrahim bin al-Mahdi and the merchant's sister. The Caliph al-Mamun once said to his uncle, Ibrahim bin al-Mahdi, Tell us, what is the most remarkable thing that thou hast ever seen? Answered he, I hear and I obey, O Commander of the Faithful. Know that I rode out one day a-pleasuring, and my ride brought me to a place where I smelt the reek of food. So my soul longed for it, and I halted, O Prince of True Believers, perplexed and unable either to go on or to go in. Presently I raised my eyes, and lo, I spied a lattice window, and behind it a wrist, than which I had never thought lovelier. The sight turned my brain, and I forgot the smell of the food, and began to plan and plot how I could get access to the house. After a while I observed a tailor hard by, and going to him saluted him. He returned my salam, and I asked him, Whose house is that? And he answered, It belongeth to a merchant called such and one, son of such and one, who consorteth with none save merchants. As we were talking, behold, up came 2 men of comely aspect, with intelligent countenance, riding on horseback, and the tailor told me that they were the merchant's most intimate friends, and acquainted me with their names. So I urged my beast towards them, and said to them, Be I your ransom? Abu Fulan awaiteth you. And I rode with them both to the gate, where I entered, and they also. Now when the master of the house saw me with them, he doubted not but I was their friend, so he welcomed me and seated me in the highest steed. Then they brought the table of food. I said in myself, Allah hath granted me my desire of the food, and now there remain the hand and the wrist. After a while, we removed ourselves, and went for carousel from one room to another, which I found tricked out with all manner of rarities, and the host paid me particular attention, addressing his talk to me, for that he took me to be a guest of his guest. Whilst in this manner these 2 made much of me, taking me for a friend of their friend, the house-master. Thus I was the object of politest attentions, till we had drunk several cups of wine, and there came into us a damsel, as she were a willow wand of the utmost beauty and elegance, and took a lute, and began playing measure, and sang these couplets. Is it not strange one house us 2 contain, and still thou drawest not near, or talk we twain? Only our eyes tell secrets of our souls, and broken hearts by lovers' fiery pain. Winks with the eyelids, signs the eyebrow nose, languishing looks, and hand unsaluting fain. When I heard these words, my vitals were stirred, O Commander of the Faithful, and I was moved to delight for her excessive loveliness and the beauty of verses she sang. And I envied her skill, and said, There lacketh somewhat to thee, O damsel. Whereupon she threw the lute from her hand in anger, and cried, Since when are ye wont to bring ill-mannered louts into your assemblies? Then I repented of what I had done, seeing the company vexed with me, and I said in my mind, My hopes are lost by me, and I weeded no way of escaping blame but to call for a lute, saying, I will show you what escaped her in the air she played. Quoth the folk, We hear and obey. So they brought me a lute, and I tuned the strings and sang these verses. This is thy friend perplexed for pain and pine, the enamoured down whose breast course drops of brine. He hath his hand to the compassionate raised, for winning wish, and that on hearts is lean. O thou who seest one love perishing, his death is caused by those hands and eyne. Whereupon the damsel sprang up, and throwing herself at my feet, kissed them, and said, It is thine to excuse, O my master, By Allah, I knew not thy quality, nor heard I ever the like of this performance. And all began extolling me and making much of me, being beyond measure delighted, and at last they besought to sing again. So I sang a merry air, whereupon they all began drunken with music and wine. Their wits left them, and they carried off to their homes, while I abode alone with the host and the girl. He drank some cups with me, and then said, O my lord, my life hath been lived in vain, for that I had not known the like of thee till the present. Now by Allah, tell me who thou art, that I may ken who is the cup companion whom Allah hath bestowed on me this night. At first I returned him evasive answers, and would not tell him my name. They conjured me till I told him who I was, whereupon he sprang to his feet. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased saying her permitted say. Now, when it was the 347th night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that Ibrahim, son of al-Mahdi, continued. Now when the housemaster heard my name, he sprang to his feet and said, Indeed, I wondered that such gifts should belong to any but the like of thee. And fortune hath done me a good turn, for which I cannot thank her too much. But haply, this is a dream, for how could I hope that one of the Caliphate house should visit my humble home and carouse with me this night? I conjured him to be seated. So he sat down and began to question me as to the cause of my visit in this most courteous terms. So I told him the whole affair first and last, hiding naught, and said to him, Now as to the food, I have had my will, but of the hand and wrist, I have still to win my wish. Quoth he, Thou shalt have thy desire of the hand and wrist also, Inshallah. Then said he to the slave girl, Ho, such an one bid such an one come down. And he called his slave girls down one by one, showed them to me. But I saw not my mistress among them, and he said, O my lord, there is none left save my mother and sister, but by Allah I must needs have them also down and show them to thee. So I marveled at his courtesy and large-heartedness, and said, May I be thy sacrifice? Begin with the sister. And he answered, With joy and good will. So he came down, and he showed me her hand, and behold, she was the owner of the hand and wrist. Quoth I, Allah make me thy ransom. This is the damsel whose hand and wrist I saw at the lattice. Then he sent his servants without stay or delay for witnesses, and bringing out 2 myriads of gold pieces, said to the witness, This our lord and master Ibrahim, son of al-Mahdi, paternal uncle of the commander of the faithful, seek in marriage my sister such as one. And I call you to witness that I give her in wedlock to him, and that he hath settled upon her 10,000 dinars. And he said to me, I give thee my sister in marriage at the portion aforesaid. I consent, answered I, and I am herewith content. Whereupon he gave me one of the bags to her, and the other to the witnesses, and said to me, O our lord, I desire to adorn a chamber for thee, where thou mayest sleep with thy wife. But I was abashed at his generosity, and was ashamed to lie with her in his house. So I said, Equip her, and sent her to my place. And by thy being, O commander of the faithful, he sent me with her such an equipage that my house, for all its greatness, was too strait to hold it. And I begot on her this boy that standeth in thy presence. And then Al-Mamun marveled at the man's generosity, and said, Gifted of Allah is he. Never heard I of his like. And he bade Ibrahim bin al-Mahdi bring him to court, that he might see him. He brought him, and the caliph conversed with him, and his wit and good breeding so pleased him that he made him one of his chief officers. And Allah is the giver, the bestower. Men also relate the tale of the woman whose hands were cut off for giving alms to the poor. A certain king once made proclamation to the people of his realm, saying, If any of you give alms of aught, I will verily and assuredly cut off his hand. Wherefore all the people abstained from almsdeed, and none could give anything to anyone. Now it chanced that one day a beggar accosted a certain woman, and indeed hunger was sore upon her, and said to her, Give me an alms. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 348th night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that quoth the beggar to the woman, Give me an alms, however small. But she answered him, How can I give thee alms when the king cutteth off the hands of all who give alms? Then he said, I conjure thee by Allah Almighty, give me an alms. So when he adjured her by the holy name of Allah, she had ruth on him, and gave him 2 scones. The king heard of this, whereupon he called her before him, and cut off her hands, after which she returned to her house. Now it chanced after a while that the king said to his mother, I have a mind to take a wife, so do thou marry me to a fair woman. Quoth she, There is among our female slaves one who is unsurpassed in beauty, but she hath a grievous blemish. The king asked, What is that? And his mother answered, She hath had both her hands cut off. Said he, Let me see her. So she brought her to him, and he was ravished by her, and married her, and went in unto her, and begat upon her a son. Now this was the woman who had given 2 scones as an alms to the asker, and whose hands had been cut off thereof. And when the king married her, her fellow wives envied her, and wrote to the common husband that she was an unchaste, having just given birth to the boy. So he wrote to his mother, bidding her carry the woman into the desert, and leave her there. The old queen obeyed his commandment, and abandoned the woman and her son in the desert, whereupon she fell to weeping for that which had befallen her, and wailing an exceedingly sore wail. As she went along, she came to a river, and knelt down to drink, being overcome with excess of thirst, for fatigue of walking, and for grief. But as she bent her head, the child which was at her neck fell into the water. Then she sat weeping bitter tears for her child, and as she wept, behold, came up 2 men, who said to her, What maketh thee weep? Quoth she, I had a child at my neck, and he hath fallen into the water. They asked, Wilt thou that we bring him out to thee? And she answered, Yes. So they prayed to Almighty Allah, and the child came forth of the water to her safe and sound. Then said they, Wilt thou that Allah restore thee thy hands as they were? Yes, replied she, whereupon they prayed to Allah, extolled and exalted be He. And her hands were restored to their goodlier than before. Then said they, Knowest who we are? And she replied, Allah is all-knowing. And they said, We are thy 2 scones of bread, which thou gavest in alms to the asker, and which were the cause of the cutting off of thy hands. So praise thou Allah Almighty, for that He hath restored to thee thy hands and thy child. Then she praised Almighty Allah, and glorified Him. And men relate a tale of the devout Israelite. There was once a devout man of the children of Israel, whose family span cotton thread, and he used every day to sell the yarn and buy fresh cotton, and with the profit he laid in daily bread for his household. One morning he went out and sold the day's yarn as wont, when there met him one of his brethren, who complained of him of need. So he gave them the price of the thread, and returned empty-handed to his family, who said to him, Where's the cotton and the food? Quoth he, Such an one met me, and complained to me of his want, whereupon I gave him the price of the yarn. And they said, How shall we do? We have nothing to sell. And they had a cracked trencher and a jar. So he took them to the bazaar, but none would buy them. However, presently, as he stood in the market, there passed by a man with a fish. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased saying her permitted say. Now, when it was the 349th night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that the man took the trencher and the jar to the bazaar, but none would buy them of him. However, there presently passed by a man with a fish, who was so stinking and so swollen that no one would buy it of him. And he said to the Jew, Wilt thou sell me thine unsellable ware for mine? Yes, answered the Jew, and giving him the wooden trencher and a jar, took the fish and carried it home to his family, who said, What shall we do with this fish? Quoth he, We will broil it and eat it till it please Allah to provide bread for us. So they took it, and ripping open its belly, found therein a great pearl. and told the head of the household, who said, See, if it be pierced. If so, it belongeth to someone of the folk. If not, 'tis a provision of Allah for us. So they examined it, and found it unpierced. Now, when it was the morrow, the Jew carried it to one of his brethren, which was an expert in jewels, and the man said, O such an one, whence hadst thou this pearl? Whereto the Jew answered, It was a gift of Almighty Allah to us. And the other said, It is worth 1,000 dirhams, and I will give thee that. But take it to such an one, for he hath more money and skill than I. So the Jew took it to the jeweler, who said, It is worth 70,000 dirhams, and no more. Then he paid him that sum, and the Jew hired 2 porters to carry the money to his house. As he came to his door, a beggar accosted him, saying, Give me of that which Allah hath given thee. Quoth the Jew to the asker, But yesterday were even as thou. Take thee half this money. So he made 2 parts of it, and each took his half. Then said the beggar, Take back thy money, and Allah bless and prosper thee in it. I am a messenger, whom the Lord hath sent to try thee. Quoth the Jew, To Allah be the praise and the thanks, and abode in all delight of life and his household till death. And men now recount the story of Abu Hassan al-Ziyadi and the Khorasan man. Quoth Abu Hassan al-Ziyadi, I was once in straitened case, and so needy that the grocer, the baker, and other tradesmen done and importuned me, and my misery became extreme, for I knew of no resource nor what to do. Things being on this wise, there came to me one day certain of my servants that said to me, At the door is a pilgrim what seeketh admission to thee. Quoth I, Admit him. So he came in, and behold, he was a Khorasani. We exchanged salutations, and he said to me, Tell me, art thou Abu Hassan al-Ziyadi? And I replied, Yes. What is thy wish? Quoth he, I am a stranger, and am minded to make the pilgrimage, but I have with me a great sum of money, which is burdensome to bear. So I wish to deposit these 10,000 dirhams with thee, whilst I make my pilgrimage and return. If the caravan march back, and thou see me not, then know that I am dead, in which case the money is a gift from me to thee. But if I come back, it shall be mine. I answered, Be it as thou wilt, and as thus please Allah Almighty. So he brought out a leather bag, and he said to the servant, Fetch the scales. And when he brought them, the man weighed out the money, and handed it to me, after which he went his way. Then I called purveyors, and paid them by liabilities. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 350th night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that quoth Abu Hassan al-Ziyadi, I called the purveyors, and paid them my liabilities, and spent freely and amply, saying to myself, By the time he returns, Allah will have relieved me with one of the other of the bounties he hath given to me. However, on the very next day the servant came in to me. Thy friend, the Khorasan man, is at the door. Admit him, answered I. So he came and said to me, I have proposed to make the pilgrimage, but news hath reached me of the decease of my father, and I have resolved to return. So give me the monies I deposited with thee yesterday. When I heard this, I was troubled, and perplexed beyond measure of perplexity known to man, and wotted not what to reply to make him. For if I denied it, he would put me on my oath, and I should be disgraced to all the world. Whilst if I told him that I had spent the money, he would make an outcry and dishonor me before men. So I said to him, Allah give thee health. This is my house. It is no stronghold, nor site of safe custody for this money. When I received thy leather bag, I sent it to one with whom it is now. So do thou return to us tomorrow, and take thy money, inshallah. So he went away, and I passed the night in great concern because of his return to me. Sleep visited me not could I close my eyes. So I rose and bade the boy saddle me the she-mule. Answered he, O my lord, it is yet but the 3rd of the night, and indeed we have hardly had time to rest. I returned to my bed, but sleep was forbidden to me, and I ceased not to awaken the boy, and he to put me off till break of day. when he saddled me the mule, and I mounted and rode on, not knowing whither I go. I threw the reins on the mule's shoulder and gave myself up to regrets and melancholy thoughts, whilst she fared on me to the eastward of Baghdad. Presently, as I went along, behold, I saw a number of people approaching me, and turned aside into another path to avoid them. But seeing that I wore a turban in preacher fashion, they followed me, and hastening up to me said, "Knowest thou the lodging of Abu Hassan al-Ziyadi?" "I am he," answered I. And they rejoined, "Obey the summons of the commander of the faithful." Then they carried me before Al-Muman, who said to me, "Who art thou?" Quoth I am associate of the Qazi Abu Yusuf, and a doctor of the law and traditions. Asked the Caliph, "By what surname art thou known?" I answered, "Abu Hassan al-Ziyadi." Whereupon quoth he, "Expound to me thy case." So I recounted to him my case, and he wept sore, and said to me, "Out on thee! The apostle of Allah, whom Allah bless and assain, would not let me sleep this night because of thee. For in early darkness he appeared to me and said, 'Succor Abu Hassan al-Ziyadi.' Whereupon I awoke, and knowing thee not, went to sleep again. But he came to me a second time, and said to me, 'Woe to thee! Succor Abu Hassan al-Ziyadi.' I woke a second time, but not knowing thee, I went not to sleep again. And he came to me a third time, and still I knew not thee, and went to sleep again. Then he came to me once more, and said, 'Out on thee! Succor Abu Hassan al-Ziyadi.' After that I dared not sleep any more, but watched the rest of the night, and aroused my people, and sent them on all sides in quest of thee. Then he gave me a myriad of dirhams, saying, 'This is for the Khorasani,' and other 10,000, saying, 'Spend freely of this, and amend thy case therewith, and set thine affairs in order.' Moreover, he presented me with 30,000 dirhams, saying, 'Furnish thyself with this, and when the procession day is being kept, come thou to me, that I may invest thee with some office.' So I went forth from him, and the money, and returned home, where I prayed the dawn prayer. And behold, presently came the Khorasani. So I carried him into the house, and brought out to him 1 myriad of dirhams, saying, 'Here is thy money.' Quoth he, 'It is not my very money. How cometh this?' So I told him the whole story, and he wept and said, 'By Allah, hadst thou told me the fact at first, I had not pressed thee. And now, by Allah, I will not accept aught of this money.' And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. And so do I cease my tale for the day, till it be morrow.